What is going on, everybody? It's your boy Nothing But Skills, and in today's video we're going to be showing you one of my favorite builds to play with in Title Update 6. Now this is probably my go-to farming build when I'm not running my hardwire build, so if you want to check that one out, you can check that one out. But this is another easy one for you guys to put together. You don't need a lot of gear sets, you don't need a lot of brand sets, and a lot of these sets you can find pretty quick. Now, I know with the hardwire set, we had a little bit of issue because a lot of you guys haven't completed that project and you weren't getting the pieces to complete it. So I decided to build you guys another skill build that I think you guys will enjoy. Now, this is tweaking one of my first skill builds I ever made. So let's dive right into it. As you guys see in the gameplay, it puts in work, it does what it needs to do, and you can run through missions solo, and you can farm those level 4 control points with this build. And I do them over and over and over. So let's dive right into it. So if we get into the build, you're gonna see I am running a 3-4-11 build. That's 11 utility, and that's great because I am using the Btsu gloves. Now for my primary and my secondary, you can swap these out in and out however you want. I do love the Merciless now in Title Update 6. When they raise the RPM and the base damage on this, I just love it. It works really good with this build and it performs. Now the weapon I'm going to get into is the one you probably don't know about, or if you do, it's the M4A1, and it's called the Pyromaniac because it has perfectly ignited. Deal 40% weapon damage to burning enemies. After 2 kills, it applies burning to the next enemy you hit. Now, not only is this great because you get the 40% weapon damage to burning enemies, and every second enemy you kill, you're gonna get that burning, right? So it's gonna apply burning, and that's gonna cause your Btsu gloves to trigger. That's why this gun works really good with the Btsu gloves, or even just having ignited on your weapon works good with the Btsu gloves. Now it has distance on there for 15% optimal range. I honestly would like to have rate of fire on there, so Allegro, but it has another talent I really like, Rooted. While equipped and in cover, which you're going to be doing with skill builds, all skill damage and healing is increased by 25% for 10 seconds. Now buff is lost when you exit cover. This can occur once every 60 seconds. So this is great for you skill builds that like to heal, or you want your skill builds to put out damage like this build right here. Now you're going to see that I am running 210k armor, 66k health, and I have almost 3000 cap skill power on this build. And I'm not running I'm running 2000 skill power, probably a little bit less. Now, the specialization I am running the Technician, and you remember, if you are running the Technician, you get 50% more skill power, so that's why I can run 2000 skill power on this build and still unlock every skill in the game. Now, for the mask, I'm running the China Light Industry Mask. I'm running a 3-piece. This is going to give me 10% explosive damage. Don't really care for the shotgun damage, but look, we have 20% skill haste right there. And I want my skills to come back quicker with this build. Now we are stacking skill haste on this build, so we have skill haste right there on the mask. We have 49% damage to elites, and then we have surge on there for another 20% skill haste. We get into the chest piece. That's gonna be our first piece of Alp Summits. This is gonna give us 20% skill haste. So you see where I'm stacking the skill haste because I want to get the lowest cooldown timer on my Seeker Mines as possible. So that's 20% skill haste just on the Alp Summit chest. That's 15k armor, plus this one we are going to run skill power on here. And then we have hard hitting, 25% damage to elites, because that does stack on your skill builds when they put out damage. And then we do have 2 defensive mod slots on here for the extra total armor, and then we do have 1 utility mod, and I'm going to be stacking that 4.5 explosive damage on this build. We get into our second piece of China Light, and this is going to give us 39,000 health because we want to have some health on this build, and we have 36% skill haste. So like I'm telling you, skill haste is key with this build. We want those Seeker Mines to come back because we're going to be able to unlock all our skills with just 2000 skill power, and then getting the extra 50% from the Technician specialization. Now we have the utility mod, we have another 5% explosive damage, and we have 2% burn damage. Our third piece of China Light, which is giving us that 20% skill haste, we are going to run skill power right here. So we have 300 skill power right here. Now I am running calculated, and this is great because you get your skills back a little bit quicker. Look, kills from cover reduce skill cooldowns by 10%. So our goal with this build is to have our Seeker Mines and our Flame Turret always on charge and always going, because our skills do the damage on this build. Now we do get an offensive mod slot here, so I have 6% rifle damage because I do use the Merciless a lot, but you could switch this out and put some AR damage if you want to use the Pyromaniac M4 instead. For the gloves, these are the Btsu gloves. Now the reason why these are so great and work so great with this build is because we have energy infusion. Whenever you apply a status effect, your gloves become infused with that effect for 60 seconds. While infused, you gain 10% skill damage. We have 11 utility, you times that by 10% skill damage, and we're up there dominating with our skill builds, right? Now for you healers, this works great too because you get also 10% skill healing and repair, plus you get 10% skill duration. So if I throw my flame turret out after the fact, it's gonna last a little bit longer. Now, applying the same status effect while infused does not refresh the infusion. Now, whenever you do throw a skill, it's going to create a small explosion applying the infused status. So if I get burn on somebody and I throw out my Seeker Mines, initially it will throw out a little burn explosion, right? So you'll have a fire explosion all around you. And then after that, the Seeker Mines will take off. Now, enemies that get hit with that initial, like that little explosion of fire, they're gonna take 50% more damage. So that's why it's great sometimes to throw your Seeker Mines directly at those big heavies and you're more likely to drop them. Also, the Btsu gloves, the great thing about them, they have 2 utility mods. So I have burn damage on here, and then I have explosive damage, and then more explosive damage. And finally, our last piece is a Providence Backpack. This is gonna give us 10% skill power. We have 15% skill haste on here. We have 5.5% critical hit chance, which I would rather have armor on here to be a little bit more tanky, or even health, or even weapon damage. You could put weapon damage on here too, whatever you want. That crit chance doesn't do anything, but I can't roll this. Until I get a better backpack, this is the one I'm running with. I do like it because it has skill haste, it has skill power, and then we have destructive for that 40% explosive damage, and then we have skilled. Skill kills have 25% chance to reset skill cooldowns. And this is 6 or more utility, plus we have a utility mod that's gonna give us more explosive damage. So the goal with this build is to have a really low cooldown time. So in case something like skill doesn't work, calculated, stuff like that doesn't refresh my skills instantly, well, that's what I have my low skill cooldown time on. Now, I don't have the best mods for my Seeker Mines just yet for cooldown. Right now, the best one I have is at 157% skill haste. I'm trying to get one that's requiring more, closer to 3,000 skill power, and then that way my skill haste time will drop down. My cooldown time on my Seeker Mines are only 15 seconds. I have friends that gotten theirs down to around 10 seconds running the same build, but with just a little bit better rolls on the skill haste. So you can probably get your Seeker Mines down to around 10 seconds, and then if they don't refresh, 10 seconds isn't long at all. 15 seconds isn't bad. Now the base damage on these cluster mines are 450,000. I do have a 92% skill mod there for the damage. And then we are running a +6 extra cluster mines. So I have 9 mines, 450,000 damage, and then you times that by all the extra damage you get from the Btsu gloves and stuff like that. This really adds up, and that's why I think this build is so fun to run. Now I pair this up with the flame turret. I personally love the flame turret, and I think it's a great way to trigger your Btsu gloves. Now the great thing about this is gonna have 20,000 burn damage, but it will be higher than this if, say, I have a status effect applied by ignited on my lightweight M4, and then I throw this out. This will be higher, right? Because it's gonna calculate with my Btsu gloves. But overall, this thing together, the Seeker Mines, the flame turret, work hand in hand, and I really like them, and I think they're amazing. We're gonna go over to my stats just so you can see what I'm putting out for damage. So if we go all the way down right here, we look at that. We have almost 70% explosive damage and then 74% damage to elites. And remember, the damage to elites stacks on that flame turret against those elite and named enemies, and the same thing with the Seeker Mines. And one last thing, if you don't have the Btsu gloves and you're looking to run a build like this because you're new, you're returning, you haven't got the Btsu gloves, don't worry. Run a talent like Terminate, and what Terminate does is depleting an enemy's armor grants 35% skill damage for 15 seconds. Kills do refreshes, so you can always have that extra 35% skill damage with Terminate. So if you already have a 10-second, say, cooldown on your Seeker Mines and you're running something like skills on the backpack, and you're not really worried about the extra damage you're getting from the Btsu gloves, which you don't have to have, Terminate is that talent for you. So if you don't have the Btsu gloves, swap over to Terminate, and I'm pretty sure you're gonna enjoy this build. I hope this helped you out. If you guys have any questions, use the comment section down below. Let me know what kind of skill builds you like running. I have a bunch of skill builds in mind. I just wanted to throw this one out there because this is what I've been using to just farm my builds. So as I'm farming new pieces, I'm farming those pieces that I really need to tweak different builds that I have in mind. Well, this is the build that I have been using when I'm not running my hardwire build. So if you like running the hardwire build, if you like running this build, well, I hope you guys enjoy it. We're gonna wrap this up. I thank you guys again, but until the next Division 2 video, nothing but skills is out.